Welcome. I am Reverend Montclair. I am an interfaith minister, and today is Monday, April 15th, 2024. And today I am speaking on a subject I took the title from a painting that I did years ago, and that is God, the eyes of love is God. I had an idea in mind for about 10 years to do a painting before I did it. And the painting was of a white tiger. And I did it on a 4-foot by 8-foot canvas, which was essentially a life-size tiger in a pool of lotus blossoms. This image just captured my imagination and it haunted me. Finally, I decided it was time to do it because there was an art exhibit coming up with a subject. I think the subject was on animals, and I said, that's it, I'm doing it. I'm going to put this painting in the show. On that day, I had the flu. I did not have an art studio. I dragged this big canvas into my living room. I cleared space. I put papers on the floor, and I painted it in one day. 10 years in the making. This painting came to represent to me something far greater than just an image of a tiger in a pool of lotus blossoms. And that probably came from an article I had read in the National Geographic on tigers in India. And it was about a village who had been plagued by tiger attacks. And the people had learned the ways of the tiger, and that is that tigers only attack you from behind. They don't like to attack you front, head on. So the village people decided they needed to make these masks to wear on the back of their heads when they are out in the jungle and in the waterways in their boats, so that the tigers would think that they were facing them. So that's what they did. They wore these masks on the back of their heads, and it did prevent tiger attacks. What I recognize about that story, how it percolated inside of me, was that the idea of my concept of God is that God is love. So when we have love in our lives, in our being, in our innermost being, it's like the tiger. It can be all encompassing and devouring of our being, to have love, great love in our lives and in our being. And it's only when we turn our backs on love that it bites our head off. And we get all up in our head, in our fears, in our defenses, in our justifications for avoiding it, in our fears of embracing it, because love is that powerful. And like the tiger, when we turn our backs on the tiger that is love, all hell breaks loose in our lives, because we don't embrace that love, because we're denying such a great part of ourselves, because we're denying our divinity, because love is divinity. Love is God. And it is the worst thing you can do to yourself, to shut out God, to shut out love, to shut out your divinity, to close yourself off from it. But we have these very powerful minds, and that's exactly what we do, because we're afraid. And fear is not always justified. We can justify it all we want in our minds with reason, but it's not always justified. There is a saying that some people have attributed to fear, and that is false evidence appearing real. So the false evidence appearing real in our lives are all the things that we fear and that we bow down to instead of bowing to our hearts, instead of bowing to our love, instead of following that strong thread between us and divinity, and that is our heart. It is our North Star, following our heart. And when we don't follow our North Star, we get lost. We get lost in life, we get lost in direction, we get lost in purpose, we get lost in our heads, in our fears, in our anger. We get lost in the devil's world, the devil being fear. So we're either living in divinity, in our heart space, in love, or we're living in the devil's world, which is the world of fear. Imaginary fears, mostly. But then, when we live in that world, all kinds of other things in our lives manifest that we need to be afraid of, that we actually have the real reason to be afraid of. Our health suffers, our mental health suffers, our social connections suffer, our experience in our lives suffer when we live a life of fear and mistrust. And it's not easy. It's not easy staying away from those fears. It's not easy quieting the mind from those fears. It's challenging. It is a discipline to keep bringing ourselves back to our heart. So today, that's what I have to tell you. It is a time of change in the springtime. Today, April 15th, is tax day. That can bring up a lot of fears for a lot of people, and with good reason. You know, the government are, the daddy we have to bow to in our countries is fierce and not loving. But we must be attentive to the ways that we can be loving with ourselves and take care of business and stand on the platform of the divine, which is love. That's my message for today. And this is Monday Church with Reverend Montclair, and I leave you with a Diné Navajo blessing, the Beauty Way prayer, which speaks of the divine above, below, and all around us. And it goes like this. May you walk in beauty, with beauty before you, with beauty behind you, with beauty above, with beauty below, with beauty all around you. May you walk. Till next time, this is Reverend Montclair. Thanks for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.